Welcome to Black Belt Selling with Stephanie and Anna Scheller. I'm Anna.
And I'm Stephanie.
We're a mother-daughter team. No, we're not sisters. Mother-daughter team who are passionate about helping you kick through those obstacles that keep you from making more sales. On Black Belt Selling, we interview guests and we bring you terrific content that's specially designed to help you achieve your goals so that you can live the life of your dreams. You can learn more about us by going to www.facebook.com/groups/Black Belt Selling. That's facebook.com/groups/Black Belt Selling. You can see updates, motivational, fun things. We encourage you to participate with us. And today's topic, Stephanie, I think is a really important one because I know that in the past this has been a huge game-changing topic for me. Why don't you introduce our topic today?
Well, what's interesting about our topic for today, and of course, you guys have already been checking out the title there. So we're talking about 7 keys that you can use to overcome the fear of failure. And the reason this is such a big deal is that one of the biggest reasons we don't take action as human beings, just in general, one of the biggest reasons we don't take action is because of fear. And actually, I've been talking with a new client, and I'm super excited, right? It's this amazing company, potential to literally sweep across the whole globe. And I'm like, this is an awesome opportunity. And then all of a sudden, the brakes get put on. Everyone's freaking out because of fear. Fear of, and they're like, well, we just don't know. We just don't know enough. We just don't know enough. But you know what? My personal belief is that it all comes down to a fear of pain, right? Fear of, we don't want to get hurt. We don't want to get hurt through failing. We don't want to get hurt through not knowing enough, which can then cause failure, which causes pain, right? So we have this, all this stuff holds us back. And so today I am excited because I think that this is probably one of the biggest reasons that we don't have the kind of results that we want in our lives for any of us. I don't care who you are, where you're at. I think this is the biggest reason we don't get results in life, business, sales. I mean, fill in the blank, insert whatever you want to insert there.
Yeah, I think this fear, actually I've done a lot of reading, and many of the sales gurus that are out there alongside us, they will tell you that the fear of failure is one of the number one fears. And the flip side of it is the fear of success. Well, we're not going to go into that one today, but the fear of failure is very closely tied to what keeps us from success. And so we're going to talk about 7 keys to help you conquer this fear. Now, the really cool thing is we're reformatting Black Belt Selling. So not only are you going to get to hear fantastic content, we have created a really cool handout for you to go and to get this information and actually work with it, because we believe that what we're sharing with you is so important. What you're going to hear today is so important that you're going to want to take some time to digest it. Listen to this podcast again. It is that important. And so halfway through the show and then at the end of the show, we're going to tell you how you can get that very special handout today. But
can I just say real quick, I'm excited about this handout because look, we've all got we've all got a guru, right? And I'm not saying that we're your guru, right? As you start relying on me to be your guru, you stop relying on yourself to provide for yourself. So we're not your guru, but there's a lot of great information out there, and there's not a lot of people out there providing actual actionable steps to help you be successful at implementing it. And that's what this workbook is, which is probably the coolest part, is these are actionable steps. Or whatever we had, 6, 7 steps inside the workbook. It's for you to sit down. And here's the cool thing, guys. I know a lot of times once you start talking workbook, people start going, oh my God, dollar signs. This is free. You're listening to our podcast, so we're providing it to you. That, to me, I mean, this is just phenomenal as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. But let's get into some meaty stuff now. So we're not here to hawk a workbook. We're here to give you information that's going to change your life, because if you are paralyzed, if you're not achieving the results that you want and you don't have a game plan to get it done, this fear of failure is probably one of them. So one key to conquering the fear of failure is going to seem a little counterintuitive, Stephanie, because a lot of people avoid this, and yet it can be the very thing that keeps people fearing failure. And we have self-doubt. And so the first key is we want to embrace our weakness. We don't want to keep shoving it aside because we're afraid it's going to overtake us and destroy us, but we want to embrace it. I mean, I actually recently had a situation where I'd made a mistake, and unfortunately it was kind of a big mistake. It wasn't a little mistake. It wasn't something I could just take care of and sweep under the rug. It was a pretty honking big mistake. And as I was sorting through how to handle the mistake, my first inclination was to run away from the problems that were created by my actions. And my weakness is to cower away from things, is to not want to deal with something because I don't think I know what to do. And I was thinking about this and I thought, I need to embrace this feeling of weakness. I need to embrace this not knowing what to do, instead of letting it stand in front of me and kind of rear its ugly head at me, almost to taunt me like a bully, like, you can't do this. I mean, that's what our weaknesses do. It could be a weakness in terms of picking up the phone. It could be a weakness in terms of not knowing what to say. Mm-hmm. It could be a fear of not knowing how to answer an objection. Or it could simply be a fear of what someone's going to say about you if it doesn't work out, especially loved ones. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but the whole purpose here is to identify that weakness that's holding you back. And, we recently had Lolly Daskell on our show, and she was talking about the leadership gap. So excited about her book. But in the leadership gap, she talks about that very thing, that leaders try to just be all this strong and put out this bravado, this persona, but really getting in touch with what keeps you from your greatness is extremely important, because once you recognize it and you can start to compensate for it, it can actually become an asset. Yeah. So, Stephanie, why don't you give us a little bit of your thoughts on this particular topic?
Well, I think this is important because, I've done this in the front of the room when I'm training too. There is a Doctor Who episode. Okay, and I promise that this totally relates. Okay?
She likes Doctor Who. I'm okay with Doctor Who, okay?
Don't judge me, guys. My fellow Whovians, right? Okay, so there's a Doctor Who episode, and it's the very first Doctor Who episode with Matt Smith as the new Doctor. And the way this episode works is you have the very beginning part, and he meets this little girl. Her name is Amy, just as he's finished regenerating into Matt Smith. And his TARDIS starts malfunctioning, and he tells her, "I'll be right back." Okay, and so he's met this little girl, Amy. He leaves, he fixes his TARDIS, and he comes back. And of course, because he's a time traveler, he comes back and she's all grown up. And he's trying to figure out what's going on because she's all grown up. There's no one living in her house anymore. And he's trying to be like, "Hey, where's your mom and dad? The mom and dad we were talking about when I first came." And she was like, "I don't have a mom and dad. I've never had a mom and dad." And he's like, "Well, last time okay, where's your grandparents?" "I don't have grandparents. I've never had grandparents. It's just me. And so he's trying to figure out what's going on. And all of a sudden he realizes they're standing in a hallway, and he realizes that he has never once looked at the corner of the hallway. Every single time he would scan the hallway, and he just somehow never really looked in the corner. And what had happened was there was an alien hiding in a room in the corner of the house. And the way the alien camouflaged itself was by basically making your eyes skip over him. And so as long as you didn't actually look in the corner of the hallway, you felt safe. Because it was so scary that as soon as you looked, you started to freak out. So your brain just like edited it out, basically. And so what happened, though, was by not looking in that corner of the hallway, that alien was eating her parents, her grandparents, her siblings. And so by not looking at that weakness, that problem, it started to eat up and become a much bigger problem than it had to be. So for me, embracing those weaknesses, realizing you have them and embracing them becomes vital, because if you don't, the problem is they become that little monster in the corner of the hallway, and they'll eat away and eat away and eat away. Before you know it, you have no parents, no grandparents, you're living on your own in a house, and you could be next for the alien to eat you. So, I mean, that's my thought as far as it goes.
I'm glad there was a point to that story.
I know, right?
It was a good point, but it does point out the fact that what we try to avoid usually comes back and bites us. And so it's really important to deal with those things that are hindering us up front. So embrace your weakness, identify it, and start to don't ignore it, and don't pretend like it's a child, or don't pretend like it's an evil part of you. You have to embrace it, because we all have those weaknesses, and it can actually become an asset in helping you deal with whatever you're dealing with, whether it's making more sales, getting more leads, whatever that situation is. Now, the second one kind of can come out of this. Why don't you start us on that discussion for number 2?
So the next one is really to figure out what is the root cause of this fear. Okay, so once again, right, and there's a reason that I told this little story, right? Because once again, you've got something you're afraid to look at usually. When we're afraid, our first instinct is flight. We're human beings. It's nature's course. First instinct, fight or flight, and the one that usually wins is flight. And so we don't look at it. We have this fear, right? But we don't actually examine it. And one thing, Tim Ferriss, he's an amazing, brilliant guy. And he says, it's interesting. It is interesting to me how people, if you would examine the problem you're facing, if you would examine the thing that's holding you back, most of the time you would find that it's not accurate. Like the thing you're so scared about happening, he said it could never happen in a million years. I went off and I decided I was going on a 3-month vacation. I thought my business was just going to collapse without me. You know what I found? It actually did pretty darn good just without me. So figure out, what is the root cause of what you're afraid of? What is it? He said, by the time I figured out I can't go on vacation because I'm afraid the business will collapse. And I really examined that, and I said, you know what? Well, if the business collapses, what's the worst thing that happens to me personally? And he started to realize it wasn't that big a deal. And so this thing, monster on his shoulder, had been sitting there for years, weighing him down, giving him back problems. And he was finally going, oh, wow, that was silly.
Yeah, that's all. That's all.
Yeah.
And and sometimes we make decisions about talking to people, or we make decisions about approaching people, or we make decisions even about whether to ask for the order based on even something as silly as a childhood incident. So, for example, when you got into sales, you didn't realize you were in sales, and when you did, it hindered you because it took you back to sitting at the dinner table and your dad fussing about the telemarketer. And Daddy didn't just fuss. I mean, he made a big deal about what an inconvenience they were, and how difficult they made life. Of course, we don't want to do that. So we have to sometimes we have to look at that and go, oh, was that such a big deal? No, it wasn't. And not everybody is. I'm not a telemarketer. And even if I am a telemarketer, I am not destroying everybody's life by giving them a phone call. As a matter of fact, no's are the roadblock to yes. And so we reframe that. We take that. We go, oh, that's what that's about. Or, oh, that's because of a bad, maybe that was a childhood thing. Maybe it was something as a teenager. Now you're an adult, and you can look back and go, well, it's not that big a deal. Yeah. And, we've got that little inner critic that's talking to us, and that's a whole other conversation. But just realize the critic is there, and this gets back to embrace the weakness. The critic's there to protect you, but that doesn't mean the critic's right. It just means it's something you have to look at, and that's a very important part. So look at what is stirring, what this is going back to. Why are you so afraid? Is it because of a parent? Is it because of a past relationship? Is it because of a boss that just beat down on you when you didn't make a quota? What is it? Reframe it. And, one of the best ways to reframe, Stephanie, is to surround yourself with people who encourage you and give you constructive feedback. So that really boils down to the book Friend Power, which we're not here to promote, but it's so important. So let's talk a little bit about masterminds. Let's talk about people who are going to help you look at that and realize that fear is nothing. It's nothing to hold you back anyway.
Well, the thing to keep in mind is that sometimes if we're humans, right, we just get caught up. And we get caught up in our own head, and we get in our own way. And so it is vital. It is one of the most important pieces to success that you have somebody in your life you can go to. Somebody that you can turn to when you start to get down, and you need to be surrounded consistently by these people, because life is going to get you down again and again and again and again and again and again. Yep. And if you don't have people who are sitting there and saying, like my husband is an amazing example of this. I set these massive big goals every single month. I set these huge goals. And of course, every single month I fall way short, right? You've heard me teach goal setting. I set 3 levels of goals, but I always have this huge stretch goal. This goal that is like, I would have to kill myself to accomplish it. But like one of these days, I'm going to hit that stretch goal. I know I'm going to do it one of these days, but I set these goals, and at the end of the month, I'm just like, and Matt looks at me and he says, Steph, remember how much you have accomplished.
Yep.
Remember how much you have done, and you can keep setting these goals, and I'm so glad for you that you did. But also remember that you knew you weren't going to achieve that goal at the beginning of the month. You knew it was a stretch goal. You knew it wasn't. And so he becomes this supportive piece, and he becomes something that I start to get in my own head. I start to say, well, you're just failing at this. You just can't do this. And why are you, oh my gosh, how can you coach salespeople if you can't hit your own sales goals? And he's going, you did hit your sales goals, Steph. You hit 2 of the 3. I mean, but at the same time, you have to have people around you, people who are that supportive piece, people who are that rational piece, because we are not rational with ourselves. Yes or yes?
Oh, absolutely. And, here's the thing. Sometimes we want to rush to somebody really close. And what we're looking for is we're missing that piece of confidence in our own ability. So we turn to someone who we are looking to give us the confidence. Now that's a problem, because sometimes those people are the last people that are going to be there. And here's why. There's a couple of reasons why they're not good for us. One is that they may love us so much that they want to protect us from failure. So they're like, oh, don't even bother. You know, you can't do this. Now, they may be doing that for a couple of reasons. One is maybe they've never seen you do it, which is an awesome reason to do it anyway. Because you tell me I can't do something, that is my fire in my bones. I'm going to do it no matter what. I'll show you. The other reason is that if you do it, that means they have to live to a higher standard. So it's really not about you, it's about them. And that's why it's important to find people, and sometimes they can't even be in your own family. Although a good mother, sometimes your mom's not the best person, but I would say for Stephanie and for, I'm not touting my own horn, but when my kids call me, I look to see the good and help them, to support them in what they're doing, and also to help them take off of the perch that they put themselves on when they've listened too much to their own negative talk. But, so a good mom, if your mom is supportive, she's probably a good confidant, but you actually need 3 or 4 people, even 5, who you can go to, bounce ideas off of, and you need to be transparent with them. I'm afraid this isn't going to work. and for various reasons. But have people you can trust. They may not always be the people you want to get to. Don't look to them to fill your bucket. Look to them to affirm your steps, to talk you down off of that perch, and to get back into action. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So what's next? Wow, I love this next one.
I know. Well, this next one is where kind of the rubber meets the road, because a lot of this we're talking about is, kind of internal evaluation stuff. And now it comes down to, if you want to get past that fear of failure, you can't just sit there and kind of self-evaluate and hope and pray and dream. You need a plan. You need a strategy. What am I going to do first, second, and third that is going to move me to past this fear of failure? What is going to show me? Because once we take those first few steps, usually we start to realize, oh my gosh, it's not that big a deal. Yeah. It's those first few steps. So we need to have a strategy. We need to have a plan on how to get past that. And, usually I tell people to keep it simple, keep it to 3 to 5 steps, because once it gets more complicated than that, we have a hard time figuring it out. But you have to have some kind of plan in place ahead of time. Don't wait until you get in the moment and you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, right? Have a strategy in place ahead of time. What do you think? Well,
and a plan, a lot of times what paralyzes us is we can't see the forest for the trees. And so by having a plan, we'll know the next step to take. And we're going to talk more about that here toward the end of the show. But making a plan is important because it crystallizes in our mind what we need to do next. Yeah. Even if it's just a small step. If it's something as simple as just connecting with 2 new people a day, then it's that simple. But a lot of times we look at the whole big project and we go, oh, I can't do this. We look at it because we're looking at the whole thing. And we don't need to look at the whole thing. We just need to look at the next step.
Step 1, step 2, yeah.
And it just helps us to get moving. It just helps us to get past. Having a plan, if I don't know what to do, but I have a plan, I can go to my notebook, and what I use is this. You can see it's just a composition notebook. And on the front, I'll say when I started the notebook, but I keep everything in this notebook. Everything goes into this notebook. My plan, what I'm going to do the next day, so that if I get lost, or if I have moments of this isn't working, I know I have something I can do to keep my forward momentum. And that takes my mind off the fear of failure, to be honest. If I have a plan, I know that maybe things won't work out today, but maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, and the plan gives you some support, I guess is kind of the word I'm looking for. Like it helps you feel like you've got some structure in place. But the other thing it does is it forces you to start taking action. And really, you know what, the best remedy for fear is action. The more you sit in your corner of your room in the dark, shaking and rocking to yourself, the more you are putting yourself in a hole.
Whoa. You're getting ahead of us here. You're getting a little ahead of us. Okay. But first, before we go on, let's just remind our listeners that everything we're talking about, they can get on this worksheet, on this download. That let's give them what do you call it? Oh, the website. Let's give them the website right, where they're going to be able to take this, to go down and to download it so they can start. Because I know that our listeners are going, oh, yeah, but I've got so many things. If you just have something to follow, it will help you work through these points that we're talking about. So where can they go, Stephanie?
So we have created a special page just for you guys, our listeners from Black Belt Selling. Okay, this page is 100% only for you. So you got to listen up, take special notes, because if you go to the regular Scheller Enterprises website, you can't find it. So you need to go to www.schellerenterprises.com/one word black belt selling, BLACKBELTSELLING. If you just go to the regular site and try and look for it, you're not going to find it. We are keeping this a secret just for you guys who are actually listening to us weekly. So go to www.schellerenterprises.com/black belt selling. It's simple. Check it out. There will be a spot for you to get we'll send it straight to your email box. So you'll have a chance to put in your email so that we can send you this workbook. And it's 3 or 4 pages long, totally free, totally designed to help you actually work through these steps for yourself instead of just sitting here listening to us talk about them.
Exactly. So, but let's get back to the 7 keys to conquering the fear of failure. And gosh, Stephanie, we'll get to the action later. Just calm, hold your horses, kid. Although I have been mistaken for her sister, but just so that you know. Thank you, Lolly Daskell, for that, by the way.
But okay, we'll keep going.
Yes.
So step 5
is you need to see success. You need to see success. A lot of times, the fear of failure, what happens is we see it not working out, and then we make a decision based on that. Now, in the book Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, he interviewed Tony Robbins. And one of the things that Tony Robbins does every day is he visualizes the outcomes that he has for the day. That's part of his meditation practice. So he spends time with gratitude. He does some other things, but one of the things he does is he sees success. Now, Stephanie, our listeners may be saying, well, what if it doesn't happen that way? Aren't I a failure? What do you think?
No, because as long as you have continued to move forward, I mean, this comes down to what is the definition of success. And if you think about the definition of success, Earl Nightingale's definition is continued movement towards a worthy ideal. As long as you are not the same person you were yesterday, as long as you are continuing to grow and move and change and shift, you are not a failure. Life does not always work out exactly how you wanted it to. In fact, the best analogy I ever heard was this. The guy said, imagine you're standing at the end of a long hallway of doors, kind of like the Scooby-Doo hallway. Remember how they would do those chases back and forth?
Oh, yeah, right.
And pretend like all the doors were open. But until you start to walk down that hallway towards the far end of the hallway, you can't see what's inside each of those rooms. Right?
Right.
So your goal, your vision of success is that far end of the hallway. So you're going to start moving towards it. But what if, as you're walking down this hallway full of doors, you happen to glance down a door and you realize that that's what you really want? And so you change gears. You're not a failure because you didn't make it to the far end of that first hallway. You've decided this is actually what I wanted to go for. Mm-hmm. And you can change gears and go after something else. That's fine. Don't ever fool yourself though. Your goals should always get bigger and better. You should never be settling. There are people who go to settle for goals because they're like, well, that one's just too far away and this hallway looks easier, so I'm going to go for that one instead. Don't settle for your goals. But at the same time, if your goals do change in the course of you accomplishing them, that's normal and that's okay.
Exactly. So but what you say, well, what if I can't visualize? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. We had a phenomenal guest, Kevin Schoeniger. He has some really cool stuff at thepowerofpractice.com. You might want to go check some of that stuff out because he has some guided visualizations that can help you along those lines, because sometimes we have trouble visualizing success because we really don't know what it looks like. And so to help you with that, you might want to think about journaling, maybe even looking through. Stephanie teaches a whole thing on vision boards, which is a phenomenal thing. I've actually, after years, I've started to put together my own vision board. And to be honest, it's very motivating to look at those pictures, to see the things that I want. And it really helps to visualize that success. But even visualizing success like, today I'm going to call this client and we're going to have an absolutely outstanding conversation. And I'm going to be bold and confident. I can't force them into making a deal, but I can certainly be confident and I can certainly be prepared and I can certainly rehearse in my mind what I'm going to say. And there's a whole big thing about that. Maybe Stephanie and I could even do like a bonus one time, because Michael Phelps' visualization is what got him his phenomenal number of gold medals, and it's well known. So visualize, see your success.
And the more time you spend on that, the easier it will be to see it too.
Yes.
The more time you spend, the easier it will be to see. Now, our next one is kind of goes in well with that whole seeing your success, because it's about having positive affirmations. Now, affirmations kind of gets a weird vibe where people are like, oh my gosh. Yeah, right. I'm not getting to that stuff. Look, all it is stuff that you tell yourself, because the more often you tell yourself something, the more likely you are to believe it. So you come up with a couple of phrases, a couple of things you're going to tell yourself every day, like, I'm the coolest, I'm the most awesome, I'm the best sales trainer in the world, I am whatever. I don't care what you're telling yourself every single day, every single week, but have something that you are telling yourself that addresses that fear that has been holding you back. Something positive that is saying, hey, you know what? I'm a great coach. I am the number one business coach in the world. Now, you have to tell yourself something you actually do believe. There needs to be some level of faith behind it. So don't sit here and tell yourself something that every time you say it, you're like, whatever. Yeah. Tell yourself something you do truly believe. But at the same time, start telling yourself something that's just a little bit outside of that realm of what you think might be possible. Start telling yourself something that you think might be a step beyond, because those positive affirmations make a big difference for your mental state of mind.
And keep in mind that what you believe, you act on, and what you, you speak. What you believe, you speak. And you can change your beliefs by speaking with the truth. And you said, now, Anna, but the truth is what I've been telling myself. No, I'm going to tell you it's not. It's not the truth. What you're telling yourself is your perceived reality, and that's not always fact. Yeah. Because what is fear? Fear is false evidence appearing real. How can we change our reality? We change our reality by changing what we speak about our reality. And our words are powerful. Our words change our thinking. Our words, when our thinking changes, we suddenly see new possibilities. It's not magic. It's not it's not weird. It's a law. And you can change the course of your life simply by saying things like, you know, my market is big enough that I can make a good living helping people with my coaching. There are people out there who want me to help them make more money. Whatever you need to do, if you can't say I'm a great coach, you can say there are people who want to hear what I have to say. Yes. There are people who will benefit. And you can just start building a little bit at a time. The affirmations are ultra important. And wow, and now we can get to the part that Stephanie was so eager to jump into halfway through the show. Stephanie, take it away.
Well, if you know me, you know that this is probably one of my biggest hobby horses. In fact, there is an entire chapter in my first book, Friend Power, dedicated to this. The action talkers get nowhere. The action takers get everywhere. Getting started is half the battle. The longer you sit there, the thing to think about is this: the longer you sit there and you let yourself worry and you let yourself fret and you let these thoughts sit in your mind, the more likely they are to become something that is crippling. You'll see on the worksheet where we have a space for you to rank your fear on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely crippling, cannot move forward as long as you've got this. And the thing is, the longer you sit there, the more likely that fear is to become crippling. And it blows up, as Mom's showing, it becomes this bigger and bigger and bigger thing. So if you just get started, start taking action, just go, just do something, whatever you've got to do, get out there and start taking action, because the action takers are the ones ruling the world. The ones that are the action talkers are the ones working for the action takers.
Precisely. Keep in mind that the people who are out there who have done phenomenal things, like there's a guy named Hap Klopp. Hap. His name is Hap. Do you know that he is the founder of North Face? Everybody knows North Face. It's a major company, but he took a chance on a company in the Silicon Valley. He spent money on it, and it flopped within a year. You look at Richard Branson. Richard Branson has more failures, but he keeps stepping out. You look at Bill Gates. You look at Warren Buffett. You look at Tony Robbins and all of the greats that are out there, people that are probably your heroes. They've all had failures. They've all had times where things didn't work out the way they wanted to. Are you going to let those keep you back? Or are you going to step out in spite of your fear? Because that's what it boils down to. You have to step out in spite of your fear. Everything we've talked to you about today, embracing your weakness, identifying the root cause of your fear, surrounding yourself with people, making a plan, seeing your success, and using affirmations, all of it drives down to this. Step out and do it. Just do it. It's so important, and that's why we want you to go to the website and download this worksheet, because we want you to be successful. We put together this worksheet just for you so that you can be successful like we've become successful and continue. Now, do we continue to make mistakes? Absolutely. Absolutely. But do we let those mistakes define us? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so you too have the same power. You have the same capacity, because as a black belt, just remember, a black belt is a white belt that never quit. Be a doer. Get out there, get it done. Stephanie, you want to wrap us up?
Absolutely. Once again, guys, head on over. You can join us at any time in the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/black belt selling. And look, this is a great way to get out there and start taking action. Join us at the group. You've been listening to us for a while and you're going, yeah, well, I bet it's just, you know what? All we post inside that group are really awesome content, graphics, articles, and links to yours truly, our radio shows. So we encourage you to join us in the group. And the other thing I want to encourage you to do is stop letting your fear hold you back. Go to schellerenterprises.com/black belt selling and download your copy of this workbook. Download 2 or 3 copies of the workbook. Print off as many copies as you need to work through, because we all know we don't just have one fear. We have multiple fears holding us back. We're not that lucky. So have as many copies as you need to. Work through this, because until you take the time to work through this, your entire future is on hold, waiting for you to do this. You have a choice. You have your entire future ahead of you. And let me tell you guys, it looks bright. Make it shine. I'm Stephanie, here for Anna. We're the Black Belt Sellers of Southwest and Central Texas, encouraging you to make it a great week.